Our Station One people, and welcome to one of our most favorite episodes of the year. That's right, folks. We are doing our summer movie countdown, and it is time to look at the films of 2023. And we've got a great one for you this year. There's a lot of films that we're anticipating, and a lot that we got some question marks about, and what's going to happen with these, and what's going to be the big ones. And this is the ones where we usually go, God, I hope I don't get egg on my face. I really don't want to get egg, because I think this is probably close to our 10th one we've done of these. And it's been a tradition, and we got a great crew here to see who's going to be Mr. or Mrs. Egg of 2023. And of course, Ashley Pauls is here. We're talking about movies. So of course she is here. Howdy, Ashley.
Hi, I am super excited. This is my favorite podcast of the year to record every year. So it's always fun to take a peek at what's going to be ahead and try to guess what will be good and not so good about the summer.
And we're joined by Matt Sweatman and see, how much egg he can handle.
I can take quite a bit. I did predict that that John Wick 4 would hold on to number one spot in the second week, and I failed at that prediction. So I already have a little bit of egg on my face.
Okay, so we now have to just call you Matt Eggman. Okay, got it. That's always better. So,
all right. You.
Exactly.
As long as I'm not the walrus, yes.
And of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
So he has enough eggs stored up that,
I have found it's really good for the pores. Over the years, I've had so much on, I really found it's good for the skin.
We definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. We want to hear what your summer predictions are going to be. Please, feedback at earthstation1.com is the best way to get in touch with us. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. And you know what? It's a good thing to be able to talk summer movies and figure out what's going to be your favorite, what's not going to be your favorite. And we're going to go week by week with this. So this is a long one, folks. This is just not a typical hour and we're done podcast. This is probably going to go a little bit longer than that. So just, grab your popcorns, grab your drink of choice. Apple pie, of course, is always my favorite. But, it's just a great time to be able to talk about movies. And definitely, as we always like to say, we definitely want to hear from you guys. This is all interactive. So definitely write us and we'll read your tricks up on our next couple episodes. So it'll be kind of cool. All right, Mr. Mike, are you ready to jump in with both feet?
I am. Before we get to, this year looks, I think a couple things I noticed, and you guys, I want to hear from you guys as well overall before we get into specifics. But looking at the list, at the sort of the field of movies that we have, and if you really want to get into the weeds, it really looks like Hollywood's back. It looks like the major studios are back. We're getting releases almost every week. There's a big release. We've already seen that sort of in the beginning of this year, but it's really true. Like, this is probably the busiest summer that we've had in 3 or 4 years. I think, right?
At least since 2019.
Yeah.
So
last year was pretty big, and last year was questionable because we weren't sure about the box offices and everything, and that's still kind of an unknown factor now. But Ashley, what do you think when you look at the overall field this year?
Yeah, I feel encouraged, especially by some of the performances of movies earlier this year. Like, I still haven't seen the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like, it's not in my particular wheelhouse, but anytime you see a movie like that break out and bring in a lot of money, it's encouraged me as a film fan and a fan particularly of movies in theaters that there's still a market for seeing a story on a big screen. And looking at the lineup this summer, I hope that we'll have lots of big hits and sort of get back to as normal as we can be. I don't know if we'll ever get back to the pre-COVID where there's like a big blockbuster every single weekend, but I think this is definitely a sign of growth. So I'm encouraged, and hopefully they're quality movies too, because nothing drives people away from the theater like disappointing movies. So hopefully that'll be good quality and bring people back to the theater.
Absolutely. In addition to just the normal things that you have to wonder about when you predict whether a movie is going to be successful, is it good? How well did if it's a sequel, how well did the one before it do? Whether or not the property if people are fatigued of it or whatever. Now you've got like all these other factors like streaming, like people are going to wait. COVID's still there, so are people still gun shy about going to the theater? And of course, expenses. I mean, the theater's getting more and more expensive. Do people just want to like wait? So yeah, there's a lot of things that are like it could go. I mean, I think all of us last year were taken by surprise with Maverick, right? So that alone has changed the game. When you think about the movies this year, you're like, well, I don't know, because Maverick did huge and I couldn't have predicted that. So I don't know what to think about this year. Matt, what did you think of the overall look at the field of movies this year?
A lot of options. Now that they've gotten one good one every week, if one of them doesn't suit your fancy, just wait another week. If you're a superhero fan, there's 4 big superhero movies coming out this summer. So surely one of them's got to tickle your fancy. And if you don't like superhero movies, there's plenty of other things available as well. So I think this is a deeper list of movies than what we've seen in recent years. And I think I'm just questioning whether there's going to be a Top Gun kind of breakout. I think it's going to be a lot of ones that do very well, but I'm curious if one does break out in that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, and see if someone's willing to put their money on something that might surprise us all. Mike, what did you think of the overall field?
It's interesting this year, and I agree with what everyone's saying, but my feeling is this is going to be a good summer to see if superhero fatigue is really setting in or not. Mm-hmm. And so it will be, because like Matt said, we have 4 big superhero movies happening this summer, and we have 1 Marvel film and 2 DC films, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And so, and then we have the return of Dr. Jones. So I'll be very curious to see if people want more original stuff, like Everywhere, Everything, All at Once, or are we going to get a Top Gun Maverick breaking through, or what? It's going to be very interesting to see. And, some of our picks might surprise most of us this year. And I'm actually looking forward to it and everything. There was no way at the beginning of last year that we could have predicted Top Gun Maverick was, the, number 1 film of the summer.
By far.
Yeah.
I think it was the number 1 movie of the year.
It pretty did Avatar beat it?
Maybe. You might be right. I think Avatar did beat it.
So yeah, so I'm going to be very, very curious to see where we go. And I don't, Tom Cruise does have another movie coming out this summer.
He does.
So we'll get into that. So
we'll get into the Tom Cruise factor before we get into the weeds. Once again, I have a question for all of you right now to put you on the spot. Ashley, we'll start with you. Is anything this summer going to beat Super Mario Brothers? Right now, it's the highest grossing film of 2023. It's 535.5 million. I'm sorry, it's 490 million in the United States and Canada, and a total worldwide gross so far of just over $1 billion. That's really huge. That's really, really huge. That sets the bar for the rest of these movies, right? Like, do you think anything is capable of beating that?
I think technically yes, but I think there's a lot of unknown factors. I think one of the primary candidates could be Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, Volume 3. But we have seen again, like Phase 4 and Phase 5 of the MCU have been a little uneven so far. Like there's been like amazing films, great hits like Spider-Man, No Way Home. And there's also been some ones that weren't received quite as well, like Thor, Love and Thunder and Ant-Man Quantumania. So yeah, I think Guardians, if it's good, I think it could have a chance at the top spot, but people may not be quite as forgiving since this, I think, post Endgame, just because there's so much superhero content. And, if The Flash turns out to be an amazing film, that could maybe take it. So I think there's a lot of unknown factors. Mario could be beatable, but I wouldn't also be surprised if it ended as the top one of the summer, even though it came out in April.
Yeah,
it just depends on how many extra men you can get, basically.
It's only been out like, a couple weeks, and it's already like almost at 500 million. Matt, do you see anything beating this summer?
Not really. Possibly domestically, but that's $1 billion is a lot internationally, and Super Mario Brothers does play well internationally. So my guess would be that someone may come close to the summer movies on the domestic side, but nobody touches it internationally.
Mike?
I'm trying to think right now. I would hope that Indiana Jones would possibly come close, but internationally, I think Super Mario has it wrapped up already, and it's still playing very strong in Asia and across the world. I think it's just doing really, really well, especially China and Japan, and it's doing really, really well. So I don't see anything doing it. And I can't predict saying, oh, the Marvel movie is going to be the big one, because like Ashley said, it's been hit or miss. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously with the summer movie season starting this week, with Guardians 3 coming out, as well as Super Mario Brothers will be on demand May 9th. So that's gonna, and and by June it's going to be on Peacock. So I think you're going to see like it just drop pretty steadily over the next few weeks. But I mean, it's already made more of an impact than I think anybody expected. So yeah, I think it's the one to beat. I'll be interested as we go through if you see that if there's any candidates for challenging it for this year. So without further ado, let's get started. As we pointed out, the summer movie season doesn't start at summer anymore. It doesn't start at the end of May anymore. Now it starts at the beginning of May. And you could argue it started last month at the beginning of April with Super Mario Brothers, but we're not going to go that far back. Instead, we're going to look to this weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Ashley, I know you've already talked a little bit about it, but how do you feel about this movie overall?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, it continues to be one of my all-time favorite MCU movies. Just the cast of characters, the performances, the fact that it's hilarious, has this amazing soundtrack, but also has this incredible heart. Like there's genuine emotional moments that happen in these movies. And I think James Gunn has just done a really great balance. So I don't think that there's necessarily a reason to be worried about this, just that some of the past Marvel movies like Quantumania made me a little more nervous, cautious about what some of these movies coming up in the MCU could be. But I think overall that this will be a good movie. And I also appreciate and respect that they're calling this an ending. It's wrapping up. So you're going to give these characters a complete arc and what's hopefully a satisfying ending. And just want to say, James Gunn, please do not kill one of my favorite characters. I'm just really worried that somebody's going to die in this. And if it's Rocket, I'm going to be coming for you next week on the podcast. So
she has a knife and she does know how to use it.
Yeah. Matt, what do you feel about this Volume 3 of Guardians coming out this week?
Good test of whether there is superhero fatigue. Like Ashley, I am a huge fan of the previous films, especially the original. I still call the original my favorite MCU movie. So I have a lot of hope. Early reviews are mostly positive. Not that means a whole lot, but still, I haven't heard a lot of scary buzz about it. So it's just a question more of, are people still interested in the MCU and specifically these characters? And certainly a lot of people are, but are enough to reach Super Mario Brothers levels? That's another question. I think it does have a couple of weeks where it doesn't have a whole lot of competition. So I think it's going to be wide open. It's going to have every opportunity to make the money. And it's just whether it'll have legs once some of the other big ones hit in at the end of May and into June.
The other studios certainly are giving it a wide berth because there's no counter programming really. There's nothing in the next, I mean, as you said, I mean, we'll get into it, but it's got a pretty quote unquote easy time of it over the next few weeks. So it can really dig in for the summer if it so desires and if the audiences want it. Mike, what about you? What are your personal feelings about this third one?
I'm torn on this one. And God, I'm going to be saying this a lot tonight, but I agree with what both Matt and Ashley are saying. Literally, it's interesting because and this is James Gunn's last project for Marvel. And I think he wants to also go out with a bang. And I trust him. And I like what he's done with the first two Guardians movies. I liked what he's done with DC. I liked Suicide Squad. I liked Peacemaker. And, I'm going to be very curious to see what he's going to do. I'm curious, though, are people going to come, though? That's the problem. Are they, the casual fans, oh, the Guardians again, because he even did the Christmas special and, and that the ratings were good for it, but it wasn't great. And so I'll be very curious to see. I don't know how the Groot shorts did that they did for Disney Plus. That wasn't up my wheelhouse. So I didn't watch those. So the one thing I am looking forward to with the movie is the soundtrack and everything. I've already pre-ordered it, that it's coming. It's coming on Thursday. So, I'm looking forward to it. And it's real interesting though, because I have the tracks right here. Track number 17 is Come and Get Your Love by Redbow, which is from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I wonder if there's some kind of tying up with it, because that was the first song you heard in the first movie.
Right.
And everything.
Right.
So I'll be very curious to see how these all tie in. And I'll be, like I said, I'm not going to be going as bad as Ashley will with a knife or anything if anyone dies. But I do think this is a good nod and a good farewell to these characters. And the commercials, I've been trying to stay away from the commercials, the trailers and stuff, but I've seen one or two of them, and it's typical Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. So I'll be very curious to see. So good luck with it.
Yeah. Personally, this is one of the ones that I'm looking forward to the most this summer, this year. I like the Guardians franchise. I liked it before they came into movies, and I certainly like what James Gunn has done with them. And I don't think James Gunn is going to let us down. I think it's going to be a solid movie. The word of mouth on this is already pretty good, because it seems like most of the rest of the world has already seen it. I don't know how that works, but yeah, and thank goodness I've stayed away from spoilers. I managed to stay away from spoilers this long. I hope I can go through like this week, and I'm sure my luck right before the night before or something, I'll be like, but I think as good as the Guardians movies do, and it does seem kind of separate from the rest of the MCU in some ways. So I think that might be a good thing. And it is something that people can hold on to, because it's still part of the old phases. It's like the old regime, not the new stuff that they're trying to do. And it is funny, but there will be, probably, as Ashley pointed out, there probably will be some sad moments. There probably will be some moments that people won't get unless they've seen the other two. So does that keep people away from seeing this one? As you guys have already pointed out, the quote unquote superhero fatigue. Are people like, does it apply, or are people just going to say the heck with it? I want to go see this movie. Those are real big questions. I don't pretend to have the answer for them, but I think if you're a betting person, and we'll go through the rest of them this year, the rest of the field, but this seems to be the safe bet to win the summer, to, if anything has any chance of coming close to Super Mario, this is it. And this is important because Marvel's got like one other movie this summer, the Marvels, right? And another, I think they've got a couple of other things. So if this doesn't hit, if this doesn't land, I would imagine that people in Marvel are going to be like looking around like, what do we do now? So it is going to be an interesting test. All right, so that's really the only thing that opens this week of note. Then we go to May 12th. And as you guys pointed out, there's not really a lot of stuff happening, like coming out May 12th. Like there's the book club next chapter. There's a Ben Affleck movie called Hypnotic. There's a family movie called Rally Road Racers. But those are things that I don't think will make any impact. Does anybody else see anything that week that of note?
Well, I watched a lot of previews of ones I wasn't familiar with, and one that was listed on mine, but wasn't listed on the one that you sent the link to. It's coming out that week. Is a Charlie Day movie called Fool's Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It might be a different week. I don't know, but I showed it as being on May 12th, and that looked like a funny preview. But again, that's just a good comedy. Nothing like summer movie blockbuster kind of thing. Just a good comedy to kind of break up between blockbusters for me.
Right. All right, so let's skip ahead then to May 19th.
Okay. Hold on. Have you heard of Knights of Zodiac? Which sounds kind of interesting. I don't think it's going to be anything huge, but it does sound kind of interesting. It has a great cast.
It does. It does. They've done absolutely no promotion for this, and it is a limited release on May 12th. So who knows what that, they don't intend, this is not a major contender, I don't think.
No.
But it could be interesting to see it. Yes, it's interesting to note. I mean, you've got Famke Jensen, John Bean, Mark Dacascos. Like it's got like a pretty decent crew.
Yeah.
And Knights of the Zodiac, it sounds interesting. Sounds like a fantasy movie. So yeah, I'm curious about it.
Exactly. I'm very curious to see, that's one definitely stream, but
sure.
I definitely think it'd be cool.
All right. So May 19th, Fast X. Of course, Vin Diesel and crew are back, and this looks like the biggest one yet. I think, from what I understand, this is the first part of a 2-part finale film for them. I don't know if
finale.
That's true.
Remember, folks,
sure.
Use air quotes on this.
Absolutely. But the Fast movies always do well. Mike, we're going to start with you, so you don't have to worry about agreeing with anybody. How do you feel about Fast X?
I've never seen one of the Fast and Furious movies, and I'm not planning on starting. So, it's
starting with 10 would be a weird thing to do.
Yeah, it would. But from what I hear, you don't really need to see any of the others to understand what's going on. And, so for this one, I think it's going to do, maybe that'll knock Guardians off of the #1 spot, but I don't think it's going to have staying power because it has Jason Momoa as the bad guy in this one.
Sure. I mean, the cast is amazing. I mean, everybody who's been in a Fast movie except for The Rock is going to be in this, I think. The 9th one, I don't think did really well. And I think a lot of people kind of tapped out because it got, that's where they were in space. So I haven't seen any of them past the 2nd one. So I tapped out a long time ago. But Matt, do you have any sort of thoughts about Fast X?
Well, I work in auto repair, so this is a favorite franchise amongst people I work with. And I watched the first one back when it came out. Seems like forever ago.
Yeah, I saw the first one in the theater.
That's the only one I've seen, and now they're in space. They're international espionage, just like this. I just remembered it being about illegal street racing. That's all I know about it. It's gone a long way from that.
Yeah, it's become cartoonish.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, it's exaggerated. Ashley, what about you? How do you feel about the franchise, and how do you feel about this latest installment?
Yeah, so I'm kind of disappointed this is not Hobbs and Shaw 2, which is funny because I haven't really gotten into Fast and Furious, but I did quite enjoy Hobbs and Shaw. It's always tough to predict something that, like with the franchise, you're not super into because I don't really follow, people's levels of excitement. I could honestly see this going either way. Like it's being marketed as a finale, so people are interested. They're going to jump back in and kind of want to see this last hurrah, or they're already burned out by this point and don't really care. So I feel like it'll do either really well or it'll just kind of fall on its face and then disappear quietly from the box office. So it could go either way.
I think if it is true that it's the first part of 2 that are obviously a lot rides on the fact that this one does at least a little bit well, because they've got the last one, and will anybody care? So yeah, I don't know. I don't see this one being a major impact on the box office. It's probably going to be in the top 10 just because they always seem to do, but it just really depends on so many other factors. But I, as Ashley pointed out, I don't know this franchise, so it's hard for me to tell whether or not I'm just tired of it, and it seems like I got tired of it like a decade ago, or if other people are tired of it too, because they keep doing well, but who knows if. But I wouldn't put money on this one making too much of an impact myself.
It'll be interesting though, because it does usually very well internationally, more even than in the US.
Sure, absolutely. But for when we do our predictions, it's only North America, right? It's only US and Canada, right? That we factor in. So all right, the next weekend, May 26th, we've got The Little Mermaid, a live action, quote unquote, live action remake of a Disney classic with Halle Bailey, Melissa McCarthy, Javier Bardem, big cast. These Disney remakes do stupid money. Like I have not seen any of them, and I haven't heard that any of them are really great. But man, they do stupid money, like $350 million money. Like I think the last one, Aladdin, and that didn't even get good reviews, got like 350 million. So is this going to be in the top 5? Probably.
Oh, I almost guarantee it.
Now there is a little bit of controversy with this one. The casting of Halle Bailey has got some sect upset. So is that gonna eat into this one or not? I don't know, but I would not bet. I mean, for me, and we'll talk about some more, but Disney's probably got 4 movies in the top 5 this year. So I don't, I think if you own stock in Disney, you're doing pretty okay this summer. Matt, what do you feel about The Little Mermaid?
I think this one might be they're hyping it a little bit more than the other live action remakes. They seem to be in a rush to do some of them even on Disney Plus, and those are not doing particularly well. I don't want to call it a controversy because I think the controversy is ludicrous. But I think it may work to an advantage to have it stand out since they've done so many of these remakes. I think this was going to surprise a lot of people. I think this is going to do exceptionally well.
Okay. Yeah. Better than the last one. Better than Aladdin, maybe.
I expect so. I expect this will be the best of the live action remakes. The highest, I should say, the highest grossing of the live action remakes.
Yeah. Mike, what about you? Because I know you're not going to see this.
Oh, really? No, of course not. I'll watch it on Disney Plus, but because I like the original, and it was interesting because Little Mermaid was the beginning of the reinvention of Disney, of the big films, of the big animated films, that Beauty and the Beast and the Lion King. I could think, those. And it's real interesting that we're going to get, Little Mermaid coming to the big screen, and I'm not paying attention to any of the controversy or anything. Let it stand on its own as just a solid remake, and I hope it does well. I really do. I'm not the target audience for it though, but I'm a big enough Disney fan that I will watch it, but not at the theaters. And it also has a plus that it's opening Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. Mm-hmm. So it has, kids off from vacation, and it's a 3-day weekend, and, people are getting out and going to the movies, even when they're going to the beach or something. They want to get off the hot beach after a while. They take their kids to the movies. It's what we used to do with William when he was little. And, just to keep them occupied and everything. And Little Mermaid is the closest thing to a family-friendly movie out that weekend.
It really is. It's the first.
Unless we go see Mario,
Right. It might still be playing. Although I think at this point it'll be not streaming just yet. But Ashley, how do you feel about The Little Mermaid?
Yeah, so this is actually a must-see on opening weekend for me because I'm a huge fan of the Disney animation Renaissance era, and this has so much nostalgia for me. Like I remember being a little kid and watching Little Mermaid on VHS. I remember driving my grandmother crazy when she was babysitting me. I think when my little brother was born because I want to just like rewind it and watch it again and again and again. So I have generally enjoyed the Disney live action remakes. There's been some ones that are like, not so good, but I've enjoyed like Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella. And my hope is that the so-called controversy is really just like a small group of people that are being negative and vocal online. I mean, and all the trailers, like Halle Bailey, I'm not super familiar with her work, but her voice is just incredible. Like hearing her sing these classic songs. So I think that as long as this one gets decent reviews, this could be a really, really big hit, maybe even potentially the hit of the summer. So really, really curious to see how it performs.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're right. I think it is contingent on how good Halle Bailey can sing. Because if she knocks everybody out like in the theater, like with her voice, then this is going to do huge numbers. And all is going to be forgiven, right? As far as if anything has to be forgiven. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I don't, the only reason I noticed that there's a little bit of a backlash against the casting of this is just because I'm looking to see if that's going to affect the box office. And might it? Maybe, but I don't think so. Not enough. I wouldn't count against Disney, and especially their track record on these are just it. Like I said, it's stupid money. You can't really understand. I don't really understand how and why they do well, but they do. They just do. Like people just go to see these in droves. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if this was in the top 5. Is it enough to be number 1? Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what our predictions are at the end of all this, right? Go ahead, man.
One last point. I think there are some original songs being released with this, in addition to some remakes of classics.
Mm.
I think if one of those original songs is being hummed by little girls throughout the country, I think we have our answer on how big of a hit this is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so anything else Memorial Day weekend that you guys wanted to point out? There's a few other movies, but nothing I don't think really of significant note. What up, Matt?
The Machine. Mark Hamill is in this, and it was one of those that I checked out the trailer right before we recorded, and it looks hilarious.
Okay.
It's got a comedian who apparently I'm not familiar with him, and I can't remember his name, but he's most known for doing stand-up shows shirtless is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically 20 years ago, he went to Russia and made a butt of himself. And apparently there's some revenge from Russia today. And 20-year older and probably about 75 pounds heavier version of him is having to deal with those repercussions. And Mark Hamill somehow is with him in the present day too. And it looks hilarious. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a hit, but it is one that I am going to check out personally.
Yeah, that's one to note.
I did see the trailer of that one also, and it looks genuinely funny. But then again, that's a streaming movie for me, though. I won't go to the theater to see it.
Yeah.
All right, so we skip ahead to June.
Well, you also missed Kandahar also, which is for going out for the action adventure crowd, and it's interesting because it's a Butler movie, and it's been playing trailers on almost every film we've gone to see recently, and it's trying to go for the same type of crew that who went to go see the Top Gun movie and such, and because it's about the Afghan war, and it's it looks interesting. And again, this is a streaming movie for me, but not going to the theaters.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard Butler's action movies, I think what was the last one he did? Plane. They have their audiences, right? They do pretty well. I don't know if any of them will rise out of the pack of those, but I think it'll be a solid movie to check out. There's counter programming to Little Mermaid for sure, but I don't know if it's going to be. Yeah, I don't think it's going to make an impact as far as anything else other than that. Maybe Yeah, good to note it. Good to note it. All right, so now we go to June 2nd. We have our, is it second now? Second superhero movie of the summer with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one for a long time.
The advertisement on this has been crazy. They've been out there. Ashley, you look like you're really excited about this one.
Yes, yeah. If you couldn't tell, I'm just a little bit hyped about this movie. This is my most anticipated movie of the summer. The original of this franchise was my favorite movie in whatever year it came out. I can't remember. I think it was like 2018, 2019, something like that. But I just loved the unique animation style, was so breathtaking to see on the big screen, but also the characters, like getting to know Miles Morales and just all the different versions of Spider-Man. It was kind of like Guardians in that it was funny, but it also had some genuine moments of heart. So I'm really excited to see the sequel. I enjoy what I'm seeing from the previews. This is definitely going to be one that I want to see on the biggest screen possible. And hopefully it'll be good enough that I want to go back multiple times.
Excellent. Excellent. Matt, what about you?
Pretty much mirror everything Ashley just said. I can remember sitting in the theater. I thought, oh, it's an animated Spider-Man movie. I got to go see it because I like Spider-Man. And at the end of it, I looked at a guy sitting next to me, complete stranger, and we just said, that was freaking amazing. And I've seen it 3 or 4 times since, and I have every reason to believe they are going to continue that high level with this one.
Mike?
And also remember, this is just part one. This is basically this is one that's going to be split in two also. I'm very much looking forward to this one. I am very curious to see where they're going to go with it and how many frippin' Spider-Men are we going to get? I've already started purchasing my Funkos for it and everything.
Oh, they don't make a bunch.
Oh, I already got Indian Spider-Man and I got Spider-Punk in today. And so there's just so many different ones out that are going to be coming. And I love how each one is a different art style. I love how they're doing the animation in this. For somebody like myself who studied animation in college, this is like a wet dream. This is just like all the different things we played with, all the different styles, and I love it. And we're getting some familiar faces from the last movie, but we're getting brand new ones, and it looks just amazing. For me, this is like one of them that, come on, try to beat it type thing and everything, because that's how good it looks for me.
As far as the film itself, I'm definitely looking forward to this and seeing this follow up. Box office wise, this one's really tricky because the first one took everybody by surprise and just came up shy of 200 million. And I'm going to tell you, this summer, 200 million is not going to cut it. Now, will this one do better than the second one? I believe it will. There are some people who are still on a high from the last Spider-Man MCU movie, which dealt with a multiverse. So I think that helps. But there are some people who just for whatever reason, just don't go to animated movies. They just feel like they're for kids or whatever. I don't know. But in any case, and it's a family movie, but it's not Disney family movie, right? It's not like you don't take your little ones to see this one, I don't think. So I don't know where to place this one. Just like I'm excited for it. It's in my wheelhouse, but as far as the general public, where do you put this one? I definitely think it's going to do better than the last one. But what does that mean? Does it make 300 million? That's a big jump. That's a big jump from the second one. So I don't know if I'm willing to commit to that much success for it. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think it'll do better than the first one? And how high do you think it might go?
I'm not really looking at this one to be one of the contenders for the biggest box office, and that's not what I'm coming at this from. I think it'll It'll make its share. It'll make its money. I think it'll do well in other formats as it gets released in other formats, and I think it will help to establish Sony's franchise separate from the MCU. It's clearly the strongest they've done outside of the MCU, I think, and I think they really want to play that up, and I think it works in that regard.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's going to break records at the box office, but I think it will be well received, will do decently, and will be well liked. So I'll be pleased with that.
It also depends for me, word of mouth. And, how many times are people going to go back and see it again? And, like people, when they came out of the first one, like Matt said, people were like, that was an amazing movie. It took people completely by surprise. In some ways, some folks were like expecting, oh, it's another Lego Batman movie or something like that. And it wasn't a kid's movie. This was a great film. In some ways, I think it had a better plot than a lot of the Spider-Man movies, and I enjoyed it tons. And so it has a very high bar to live up to, and I think that's part of it too. I think they're gonna do great with it, but is it almost overkill with how many characters they're gonna have in it? Are they gonna have too many Spider-Man? Are they gonna have too many? That's what people were complaining about.
You ever have too many Spider-Man?
Some people might. That's why I dropped the comic. So yeah. Well, you never know.
Interesting. Drop the comics, but I want to see the animated movie.
It's a lot cheaper to go see the movie.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, it depends. These days. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's placed at the beginning of June. I don't know. I like it though. I want to see it. So for me, it's a must see. So hopefully for a lot of other people, it's that way too. I don't see any other must sees that week, but there certainly are a few other movies that come out that week. Anything else that anybody wants to know?
There's some counter programming for it. Like there's a Stephen King movie coming out, The Boogeyman, or there's also Past Lives, it's a romance, and then there's also Simulant, which is a sci-fi thriller. So I don't even think any of those will come close to Spider-Man though. I think one thing I'm fairly confident in predicting is that Spider-Man Across the Universe will win the weekend. Even with the tail, like with being the second week of Little Mermaid. I think this animated movie comes in and goes, okay, I'm going to dethrone you now, Little Mermaid. That was fun for you, but now it's my time. Okay, so by the way, June 4th is a re-release of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So for those people who may not be familiar with Indiana Jones, they can start from the very beginning on Fathom Events at the beginning of June. So all right, so now we go to June 9th. June 9th, we have Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, with Academy Award-winning Michelle Yeoh leading the charge. There's also a few other names in this: Pete Davidson, Peter Dinklage, Ron Perlman. It is a Transformers movie. Does that mean what it used to mean, Mike? No, not at all. I will say this though: Bumblebee restored my faith in the series. So, as long as it's not a Michael Bay movie, I'm fine with it. I won't go see it. I've lost faith in the series. I saw the first two in the theater, and after that, I just lost interest in it. And I did watch Bumblebee late at night on HBO, but that was it, but I won't go back to see this. If it's streaming somewhere in December or something and it's late at night, I'm like editing a podcast or something, I'll put it on. So, but no, it's for me, it would be interesting. I'm going to be very curious to see if Spider-Man could hold off against Transformers the week before.
That'll tell us all we need to know about Spider-Man, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If Spider-Man's going to make an impact, it'll hold its own. But if it just dives and Transformers just rises way above it, then Spider-Man didn't have a chance. Matt, what do you think about Transformers Rise of the Beasts? I'm not really familiar with. Is this like the Beast? Were they a toy line as well?
I honestly don't know. I do have a brother-in-law. I do have a brother-in-law who is obsessed with Transformers.
I do too.
And he's currently in Honduras getting his visa renewed. He'll be back well before then, hopefully, unless something goes horribly wrong. And we saw Bumblebee when it came out in the theater. I mean, I might just go just to hang out with him, but that would be the only reason I would go to it, I think.
Gotcha. Ashley, how do you feel about the Transformers movies, particularly this one?
Yeah, so Bumblebee actually really caught me by surprise that it was a little bit narrower in scope and more character focused, which is not something I necessarily would have thought I would be saying about a Transformers movie. So I had kind of wished they would have continued to go in that direction. I actually didn't even realize this movie was coming out this summer until I saw a trailer for it before another movie I was watching. It's like, oh, there's another one. So this is kind of like a similar situation to the new Fast and the Furious movie. I am not personally a part of the fan base, but I know there is a fan base. Is this movie, whatever it is, going to energize people and get them excited about going to the theater, or are even the fans kind of burned out and it'll kind of come and go quietly? So this is another one I could see going either way in terms of what public demands are, but it's hard since I'm not super involved in the fandom. I'm not sure what people are interested in. But then again, I mean, Michelle Yeoh is fantastic and Peter Dinklage as well. So hopefully, even if this movie is a dumpster fire, hopefully at least those two wonderful actors got well paid. So
it's interesting. I think what we're seeing so far, this trend that I'm seeing already, and this is just the second month of the summer, the question is, okay, these movies are coming out for specific fan bases, whether it's Spider-Man or whether it's Transformers, whether it's F9 or even Guardians for that extent. And they'll probably do well within those bases. But will they have enough to go outside of their base? And right now, Guardians seems like it's the only one right now that I feel confident in saying that one can. But I mean, it's possible that any of these could. But I, like you, Ashley, saw a trailer for Transformers Rise of the Beasts, trailer for that before some other movie that we saw. And I was surprised that there was another one. And I was also surprised because I could actually tell the robots apart. Like I couldn't, like in the second one, I during the fights, I had a hard time telling who was the good guys and who were the bad guys and what character is what. But this one seemed very clear, and I was like, okay, it looks like they fixed that issue. Whether or not I've heard good things about Bumblebee. Whether or not it's too little, too late as far as this franchise goes, I mean, we'll have to see. But if the Beasts bots or whatever, if they are a separate line of toys that I think a lot of people remember, that could help bump this up a bit, I think. There's some other movies that come out this weekend. I don't see anything like of serious note, but you guys tell me if there's anything else that strikes your fancy.
Strikes well, okay, Mike.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh,
saucy.
Those kind of movies. That's
Ooh, saucy.
All right. Well, there is Strays, which is another animated dog movie, and it has Will Ferrell, it has Jamie Foxx, Sofia Vergara, and Isla Fisher, and so it has a decent voice crew. But it's one of those movies where they're just putting it out as it just depends on the story, folks. And I've
seen the trailer for this one, and there's a Red Band trailer. This is R. This is not a family movie.
No, not
at all. Not even a little bit.
No.
This is a R-rated animated movie. So but is that going to be enough? I mean, it is counter programming, but I think I don't know. It's hard to. There's always one comedy that seems to rise above every year. Is this it? I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far on this one, but the trailer did make me chuckle a couple times. And it is really raunchy. It is really raunchy. So if you want to see a raunchy trailer, red band trailer, I would check this one out.
Very much so.
Okay, now we go to June 16th.
Oof.
June 16th, we have, I think, our first real battle of the summer. Between two titans. We've got the return of Pixar to the theater. Well, I mean, technically they returned with Buzz Lightyear, but really this is the first original movie from Pixar to be released in the theater in a long time, called Elemental. And we have the DC epic The Flash, which is being promoted more of a Batman movie than it is a Flash movie. Matt, what do you think about this battle? And which one are you more interested in?
Well, this is the first weekend that I'm definitely seeing two of the movies that are coming out. I will see both of those. I was going to joke for a second that one of the two was The Blackening, but which actually doesn't sound too bad either, but that's neither here nor there. I am a fan of Pixar. I haven't seen the heart moment, which Pixar has to have. That doesn't mean it's not in there. And as long as it has that moment, it's got me. The Flash, I'm scared. I am scared to death how this is going to do. I think with James Gunn and the other gentleman who's basically redoing the DC's cinema universe, that put this one kind of out there a little bit. Like, we know they're not really going to follow up with anything from this. They did say this is going to kind of set it up, but I think more in just that this is going to wipe the slate clean more so than it's going to provide any jumping off points, because most of this was already done before the plans were made for James Gunn's version of the universe. Also, we have the lead's problems, issues, very serious issues.
Very serious issues.
And I am very scared because I want this movie to do well. I will have the geek moment of seeing Michael Keaton as Batman, but I think that's what it's banking on. It's banking on the feels when you see Michael Keaton, but I don't know that this has enough other stuff for it to rise up to what it needs to be.
Well said. Ashley, what about you? How do you feel about these movies?
Yeah, so I will say that the trailer for Elemental didn't necessarily immediately wow me, but going off of Pixar's history and reputation and the creativeness of the concept, I'm definitely excited to see this one and hoping it does well. The Flash is a tricky one because I am excited to see it. Will be cool to see Ben Affleck and back as a Batman, which I'm excited about too. But there is the cloud hanging over it with the allegations and controversy surrounding Ezra Miller. And it's one of those, can people separate the art from the artist? And is this movie going to be one of those really intriguing with all these storylines and timelines going, or is it going to be a muddled mess? I think this one maybe is more so than Guardians of the Galaxy is really going to be riding on good reviews. Like, if critics love it and it's got great buzz, I think that's really going to drive people to the theater on opening weekend. But if it gets ho-hum reviews, even it's going to die a quick death.
Well, supposedly Tom Cruise saw it and loved it. So
no, well, hey, there you go.
He said it's one of the best pictures he's ever seen.
Well, hey, there we go.
There you go. There you go. Mike, how do you feel about these two movies?
I'm looking forward to both, truthfully. Like everyone's been saying, this is a weekend I'm going to go see the two different movies. And I'm looking forward to The Flash because it's basically supposed to be the Flashpoint story. And so we can look at the film and go, damn it, Barry, once again. It'll be awesome to do. I'm not a fan of Ezra Miller's. I am so not a fan of his. And I never have been. And I never thought what the hype was about him and everything. And then all the stunts he's been pulling and such. And I'm one of those people who've been looking forward to seeing this movie and keep on wondering, why did they continue with this one but pull back Girl? And, so I'm thinking what we could have gotten. So I'll be very curious to do. I have hopes for it. I really do, because I like the source material. And I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Keaton. And I'm also looking forward to seeing Ben Affleck as Batman again. And also there's supposed to be some other cameos that they haven't announced yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those also in this. So bring it on. I'll be there with my popcorn. No doubt about it. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm really also looking forward to Elemental. It looks adorable. What happens when fire and water fall in love with each other. It's gonna be cute. And I hope, Pixar can pick their original stories up and, bring us some quality stuff like they have in the past, because the last couple have been just meh. So I'm very curious to see what happens with this. It looks gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. The animation looks great, but the story, I'm worried.
Yeah. This will be a true test to see if Pixar really is back for me. Not that I think that they've slouched, but I mean, I do think, Turning Red was great. I think they made a mistake by not releasing that in the theater. Buzz Lightyear was just an odd duck to try to market and try to figure out. I think just left a lot of people confused. I don't think it was, we reviewed it. It wasn't horrible, but I think we were just like, why does this exist? But Elemental is one that, it's a fresh idea. As you said, Mike, I like the idea of fire and water, falling in love, getting together, whatever. Seen a preview, and the animation again looks fantastic. No surprise there. They look like they're going to do some interesting things with elements, with animation wise. So that could be fun to watch. But whether or not, it's enough for people, I don't know whether or not it has that moment. But, and as far as the Flash goes, you guys have already really said it. I mean, Ezra Miller is a garbage pile. I mean, he's just not a great person. And there's two of them in this. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, not only do I have to watch Ezra Miller, but I've got to watch two of him. However, the way they're marketing this, the story is really compelling. I mean, we've seen it in the comics, sure, but this is the first time we've seen it kind of on the big screen like this. The fact that he can, he's trying to go back and save his mom. Obviously, that resonates with both Batmen. I don't know. I mean, I guess they had to, because of Ezra's behavior, they kind of had to spill their marbles or whatever, and sort of spill the news that Michael Keaton was Batman in this, because it would have been a heck of a surprise. I mean, just like the Spider-Man movie, with Toby and them coming back, that was a huge surprise for the most part. The Batman, obviously there's two of them. We've got a Superwoman in this. We've got a bunch of other things happening. I think Michael Keaton's enough to make this interesting as far as a successful movie, especially if he's in it more than 15 minutes. If he's only in it for like 5-10 minutes, then that's going to really hurt. People are going to be like, you don't need to watch it. They're going to come out of the theater and be like, you don't need to see it. You can wait till it comes on video or streaming or whatever. But this is going to be an IMAX. It's filmed for IMAX. The word of mouth is that it's pretty good. Most of that word of mouth is coming from people inside Warner Brothers. So I don't know how much you can believe that. This will be the first time I see 3 movies that are in the theater as well. And I'm looking at seeing a third too. I believe we're going to maybe even review this one this week. This month. And that's Asteroid City, because that one is limited release starting this month. And then that goes to wider release. So, and that's the new one from Wes Anderson. So, but this one, I saw a trailer for that one, and that looked pretty fun as well. So you've got 3.
It was funny though, because as soon as you saw the trailer, you were like, Faber, we've got to do this one. I
did. I was like, we've never done a Wes Anderson movie on this podcast before, and I'm like, this seems like the perfect one for us to do, because it's got a little bit of a sci-fi element to it. The cast is amazing. I definitely looking forward to that too. So there's 3 movies that I'm looking forward to. And I must admit, I'm rooting for Elemental and Asteroid City more than I am The Flash. June 23rd, we have, again, the aforementioned Asteroid City goes wide. So whether or not I don't think that's going to make an impact as far as the box office.
Wes Anderson movies never do.
A fantasy movie called Wonderwell, which has Carrie Fisher in it, which is a neat trick. So I'm not sure is that animated or I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
A romantic comedy with Jennifer Lawrence and Matthew Broderick. Nothing else of note that I see. Anything from you guys?
Mm-mm.
I was just going to say, No Hard Feelings, the romantic comedy, is almost more of a throwback to the American Pie and Porky's movie. It's at least in the trailer, it seems to be more focused on kind of raunchy sex comedy. Yeah, and it looked pretty funny. I mean, it's not one I would consider seeing in the theater, but I mean, it's a stream when it becomes available for me.
Okay. And now we go to the end of June, and the end of June is the big movie of that weekend is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's been a long time since we've had an Indiana Jones movie.
1989.
This is the fourth one in the franchise, right? Fourth one,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
So, I cannot be subjective about this at all. I mean, objective about this at all. Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie of all time. It really inspired me when I was a kid. I'm probably going to see it when it is re-released at the beginning of this month, June anyway. And even though this one's not directed by Spielberg, even though the last one, we have to acknowledge that it exists, and even though the last one did not thrill me, and
you didn't like Sean Connery in the movie? What?
And even though the trailer for this one didn't wow me, I want this to succeed. I want this more than anything, more than any other movie that's coming out this year. I want this to be good. I want this to be this year's Top Gun Maverick. Mm-hmm. That's a big ask. That's a huge ask. Matt, what do you think? Is that too much of an ask for this?
I don't think so. I think it has that potential. The big question is if it's good. If it's good, it can do it. For what it's worth, Harrison Ford has heaped praise on it, and Harrison Ford's not one to prevaricate if he's not happy about something. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to be a good finale, and it needs to be a finale because bless him, the man is getting up there in age. I don't care how much CG de-aging they do. He it's time to step down, but I'm glad that we're going to have an opportunity to end it on a different note than Kingdom of Crystal Skulls. And I think it has to be better than that one. Good Lord, it has to be.
Ashley, welcome back. Just in time to hear your thoughts on Dial of Destiny.
Oh, good. I apologize. I had to step away for a minute, but was hoping that I hadn't missed the discussion on Indiana Jones. So, and I apologize if I repeat anything that anybody else has already said, but I'm looking forward to this one. I'm nervous about it because I think there's so much pressure just based on the reception of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and just the years of fans that this franchise has. And so realistically, probably the last time we'll get to see Harrison Ford as the character. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope it's good. I have a lot of faith in James Mangold. I've really, really enjoyed his other films that he has put out. And I think that he's a great choice to carry this on. Based on the fact that he was announced as the director of a new Star Wars movie, I feel like Lucasfilm enjoyed at least working with him and is at least preliminarily pleased with the product he put out. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. As to how well it does at the box office, again, I think it's based on reviews. Like if it does really well and really pulls in that nostalgia and a finale to this well-loved franchise, I think it could do really well, and especially in its placement in the summer. It's playing over the July 4th weekend, isn't it? The holiday
Yeah,
weekend.
it's right there. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that will do well, people going out to see it. And so, yeah, hoping that it's good and that it's worth the wait and is the send off that this character has earned.
Mike?
They both said it perfectly. This is going to be the last Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford. They can continue the series with other actors, and I would love to see it go out with a bang. I don't even want to think about Kingdom of Crystal Skulls at all. And it's just a lot of, goodness and a lot of positivity coming towards this. And they have a great cast with this one. And I just hope they don't waste it. And I'm really, really, this is one of the highest movies I'm waiting for over the summer. And, let's see what happens.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, I've already said that, I'm really hoping this one does really well, but I mean, there's a lot against it. I mean, this has got a tough hill to climb. But if anybody can climb it, I think it's Indiana Jones. Yeah, be really interested to see. So that takes us all through June. Before we get to the rest of the July 4th releases and go into July and August, we're going to take a real quick break.
Okay, YouTube folks, we're
For
back.
intermission to get popcorn and soda.
Please
and go
stand, stretch. This has been fun though so far, and there's not been any surprises though, really, out of these movies that we've talked about so far. And it's going to be very interesting. And we're saying, the big theaters are going to be loaded with 4 different screens of Indiana Jones, or or 3 screens of Guardians of the Galaxy and such. And we haven't even gotten, and we're already at July 4th weekend, and we haven't gotten a Top Gun Maverick or something that's gonna, I haven't felt like there has been anything to take us by surprise. Because I remember last year we actually even had we've had Top Gun Maverick being our biggest flop for a couple people. And so I haven't seen anything yet, which is real interesting.
I mean, we don't know. I think the other thing that is, I mean, it's the way things are now. But I think, out of all the movies that we talked about sort of making an impact, very, very few of them have been original standalone movies. They've all been franchises or sequels, prequels, what have you. And that's a trend that's not surprising. But I think if I had to put money on any original movie making it, and this is even kind of like, I don't even know if I consider this an original movie because Pixar is a franchise in itself, but Elemental is probably the one that stands the highest chance of making an impact. The rest of them are just going to be, like I said, franchise movies that are going to make Disney a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah, very much so. So I'll be very curious to see where it goes. And, we might have a couple coming up in the next segment that might be, oh yeah, this is not, So I'll be very curious to see what we see, folks. Very, very curious. So,
I think that I sort of alluded to this at the beginning. I see 5, maybe 6 movies that could do 300 million, but I don't know that I see any of them that could do 500 million. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be spread out amongst a lot of different movies.
I think, obviously, Guardians has an edge because it comes out first, right? So, and it doesn't have competition for like 3-4 weeks, right? So that's going to get a big head start among all the movies. If it does gangbusters, like over 200-300 million in the first weekend, I think it's got a chance. But if there is that fatigue and people are just like, then I don't know what that speaks for the whole summer. I mean, we could get a whole summer where it's like, nothing gets above like, 350.
Sure.
$350 million, like that's And that doesn't even come close, like you said, to Mario Brothers.
Not even. So it'll be very interesting to see. And, you know, I think we need to keep on going, and we got a long way to go, folks.
We do. We've got 2 more months to go. So
let's.
So not a lot of bonus material for you guys on YouTube this time, but stay with us because we've got 2 more months. So, and then we've got our picks. So
yeah.
Yes.
Then it gets real, but that's where it gets real embarrassing. So,
this is the good stuff, folks.
Exactly.
Fortunately, though, August is like, kind of a slow release or not very many releases, so we can go through that month, I think, relatively quickly. But so, all right, then we come back. And we are back, and we are in July with July 7th. To be honest with you, I don't see anything in July 7th that's really striking my fancy as far as making an impact or even something that I'm interested in personally. You've got another Insidious movie. I guess those do okay.
Oh, they do great.
You've got a thriller called The Lesson with Richard E. Grant and Julie Delpy, a comedy named called Joyride with a bunch of people I don't recognize. And a sci-fi movie called Biosphere. Again, a bunch of people I don't recognize. So it looks like I think Indiana Jones is still gonna rule the weekend as far as the first week of July.
I think you're right.
So then we've got. Let's see. The next weekend, there's only one movie, and everybody else is staying away. Like everybody. I mean, thanks to his success as with Top Gun Maverick, everybody is staying clear of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 has got the weekend pretty much all to himself. How do we feel about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is the longest title we've had so far? Well, Dial of Destiny is pretty long. So, Mike, what do you feel about Mission Impossible? Can Tom Cruise do it again?
Yes, I think he can. I think he is going to be very successful with the Mission Impossible film. And this is another part 1 of 2 parts.
But this one actually says Part 1. The other ones aren't. I won't say that in the title because they know that'll kill the box office a little bit.
I don't think anyone's worried about it with this one.
Tom Cruise is like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Confidence. I can respect that.
and it's just not Tom Cruise. He has a great supporting cast with him with these movies. And I really have enjoyed the last 3 or 4 of them, actually. And I think they're on a stride. And if they capture the excitement and the fun of these last couple, I think we're in store for a great film. And we get the addition of Hallie Atwell in this one too. So we get Agent Carter. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think it's good. I think this is going to be the one to beat for July, other than Indiana Jones.
Ashley, how do you feel about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Yeah, so I am really excited about this one. I kind of came into the Mission Impossible franchise. I'm not sure what possessed me, but maybe something about the trailer for Ghost Protocol. I decided to go see it in IMAX. I think the IMAX theater in our town was still fairly new at the time. I think this is the only time I've ever screamed out loud in the theater was when Tom Cruise's hand comes off the super tall skyscraper and you think he's going to fall for a minute. So I think these movies are better than they have any right to be. And it's one of those rare franchises that I feel like keeps getting better and better as it goes along. And I really like the emphasis on practical effects and stunts. Tom Cruise is absolutely crazy, but it's interesting to watch him do his thing. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I think it will do well. And it's nice to see the confidence that it's pretty much by itself in the weekend. So other studios are taking it seriously. So I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Matt, how do you feel about this Mission Impossible movie?
I'm going to see it on the biggest screen I can possibly find. I'm a believer. I am a converted believer. I saw the first couple. I thought they were okay, a little stylistic. I sort of fell off for a couple installments. And then I caught up when one of them was coming out, and I said, well, I guess I should rewatch everything. And I've been on board. The stunts are the draw here. I mean, Tom Cruise he's insane. I don't know how he does what he does, but he does, and there is no spectacle like it in movies as far as the stunts. Even Top Gun, as big of a spectacle it was, as far as the stunt, this is the one to see. So I don't think any movie does what this movie does that well, that particular thing well.
Yeah, I think as you guys have pointed out, it's more about stunts than it is story. Whether or not the story is any good, I mean, is second rate. Like, is secondary. I mean, people are seeing this because, as you guys have pointed out, they want to see what dumb thing Tom Cruise is doing. It's kind of like those YouTube videos. But this one is tough. The rest of the Mission Impossible movies didn't clear even 300 million. So, that's to ask this one to like really rise above and do maverick numbers is a Mission Impossible in and of itself. I'm gonna go see it. I know we're gonna review it on the show, so I'm excited for it. I think the last ones have been entertaining as far as story wise. Last year, Tom Cruise proved pretty much without a shadow of a doubt that he still got it, that he can still bring people in. But the Mission Impossible movies are not Top Gun, and I do wonder whether or not this one is really going to make a huge impact. We'll see. The fact that it's part one may cause some people to be nervous and like, I don't want to commit. But I don't know. We've got so many part ones coming out this year. That is crazy. So, and this one's been done for a while. My understanding is this one's been done for a year or so. It had the issues because it was filmed during COVID or right before or something like that. So, the word of mouth will be everything. But yes, does it topple Indiana Jones? Probably. All right. So, the next weekend we have of a weird kind of sort. we have a battle which I never thought I'd say this out loud in a sentence, but we have Barbie versus Oppenheimer.
Who knew? Who knew?
Ashley, what do you think of Barbie and Oppenheimer this weekend?
Well, let's start with Oppenheimer because I feel like that one's easier to discuss. So, I mean, this one is one that practically sells itself with Christopher Nolan. Pretty much any movie that he comes out with, I'm interested in just due to his style and his prestige as a director. No pun intended there. But I'm really curious to see why he chose this particular topic. So I feel like he's very careful and mindful about what movies he wants to make. So I'm curious what drew him about the true story of Robert Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb and why he decided he wanted to tell this in his film. And will he be doing any time jumping? I know a lot of times he likes to play, not do exactly straight linear timelines. So, and also his love for practical effects, I think this will be one that will be really good to see on the big screen and a conversation starter too, just based on the fact that it deals with such weighty history and big issues like that. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I have no idea what the heck to think of the Barbie movie. The trailers are something else, and the fact that they got Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling to do this, I think it's a comedy that's a little bit of a satire, but it's interesting because it's based on like a kid's toy, but like this isn't like something that I would take a kid to. It looks like it's aimed more for adults, so I have no idea what to expect from this movie. Maybe people will just go because they're curious, but I don't think that Christopher Nolan needs to worry too much about his box office that weekend, but it could be kind of a little fun cult hit for the summer. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Matt, what do you think?
I might actually disagree with Ashley on this one. Amongst the, we travel in circles amongst geek friends, but we also travel in circles against those who are more the mainstream audience. Barbie's getting some buzz out there. I mean, it's getting people are interested. They want to know what the heck this movie is. I think at its high end, this could be this generation's Grease. I think at its low end, it could be one that becomes a cult film like a Clueless or something like that. I think this one, I'm watching this one, and I don't really have an interest in this type of movie or the subject matter, but I am so dang curious what it's about. I think I am going to see that in the theater. Um, Meanwhile, Oppenheimer, I love Christopher Nolan. I will also be seeing that in the theater, but I wish it would come out in November. I think it's going to get buried in the summer. This is not a summer movie. I think Oppenheimer deserves better than to be counter programming to Barbie. And I think that's what it's kind of setting itself up to be. But I'll be there. I'll see it.
Mike, how do you feel about this battle among I don't even know what to call them. The Beauty and the Beast?
Titans beyond belief. Now, it's interesting because I agree with Matt. I'm actually surprised Oppenheimer came out during the summer. And, I hope this is not one that gets lost because of the release, because we've had that with other films in past years. Look at Rocket Man. We had talked about that, or a couple other films in the past. And it's going to be very interesting to see. I think Barbie is probably going to beat Oppenheimer that week. I really do. I think it's getting buzz. People are very curious about Margot Robbie in this role. And, it might be fluff. It might not be, but you're going to get people from all different age groups coming to this film more than Oppenheimer. You're only going to get a certain audience for it. And I'm looking forward to Oppenheimer. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be real interesting to see how many people come out to it, because you're not just going to have, young girls going to see Barbie. You're going to have people from all ages. And also, forgive me for saying this, it's also going to be very big with the LGBT community because of some of the actors and actresses they have in this film. And so I really think Barbie is going to be a lot bigger than people are expecting this summer. So
yeah, it is an odd matchup. I think if I had to say one way or another, and that's why I'm here, right? To predict one way or another. I do think Barbie has the edge as far as box office. I mean, the brand name is huge. Everybody knows who Barbie is. The trailer, as you guys have pointed out, is bonkers. So that gets people curious. It's not a kid's movie. I mean, there's a lot of innuendo, and not even just, there's a lot of blatant innuendo in the trailer. This is not for kids. And yet, I heard someone mention in another podcast, they were like, who is this movie for? We don't understand what this movie is for. We don't understand the tone of this movie. And having recently watched Toy Story 3, I can tell you that Barbie and Ken, in their appearance in that movie, matches the tone of this movie. And Barbie and Ken were really a key component to the success, I think, of that Toy Story movie. People loved how they acted. And yes, that wasn't, it was kind of raunchy, but it was safe raunchy. And, I obviously had all the other Toy Story elements going on there, but using, if you had told me that they were going to make a movie of those two characters, a spinoff of Toy Story, I would have been like, that's probably going to do pretty well. Well, this is a live action version of that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, how big this can be, I don't know. As far as the toy lines go, as far as movies about toys, I think Barbie has the potential to beat Transformers, which is something that, on the playground as a kid, I never would have thought. Right. And then you've got Oppenheimer, which, I love Christopher Nolan. We all love Christopher Nolan. He's going to make an interesting movie, but, it's in the heat of July. let's go in and see a 3-hour movie about the guy who, is responsible for one of the biggest destructive forces in the history of mankind. Like that doesn't sound like something that's like really going to get you like a lot of people running to the theater to see it, right? And it's 3 hours. So I mean, it's going to be an epic. And if I know Christopher Nolan, as Ashley knows Christopher Nolan, it's not going to be told in a completely like linear style. So there might be some, Christopher Nolan always challenges his audience to think about things. I don't know if people are going to want to think. If people don't want to think, they can go to Barbie. Right? I mean, Barbie seems to be the movie that, I mean, for a lot of reasons, it's like no thinkers required, right? I can tell you guys, and I know it doesn't make sense that it's in the summer, but Christopher Nolan made a name for himself with the Batman movies in the summer. He's been riding off that ever since. Dunkirk was released in the summer. Tenet was supposed to be released in the summer, but of course COVID happened. So I think Universal just looks at him as he's a summer guy. He makes epic movies, so people want to see it in the summer. But yes, would this be better served in the fall? Maybe, but they can always re-release it. So it's an interesting one, an interesting battle, and we'll see how. We're getting to the point now where these are probably these coming weeks are the last gasp for people who, if they for movies, if they really want to make an impact on the top 5, top 10 box office, they better come out now.
Oh yeah.
And so we skip ahead to July 28th. We've got a couple things. We've got Sympathy for the Devil which is a Nicolas Cage movie, and we've got Haunted Mansion, which is a Disney movie, of course, based on the ride. It's the second movie to do that. This one's got an interesting cast for sure. It looks like Disney's spending a lot of money in this. A lot of eyes are going to be on this one. Will this be Disney's will Disney run the top 5 spots in the box office this summer because of this movie, Ashley?
I don't really think so. I mean, I love Haunted Mansion. It's one of my favorite rides at the Disney parks. I think it's great. It's an incredible story just in the ride. But based on the fact that there was a previous one that didn't necessarily go over super well, I just feel like this one, unfortunately, I don't think is going to break out. And really, this is one that I would probably just wait for Disney Plus. I would look at this and be like, yeah, I can wait to see this on Disney Plus. And especially since there is a delightful Muppets Haunted Mansion movie already on Disney Plus that you can access now. So
perfect.
Yeah. So I really feel like we're not going to get a whole lot from this one.
I will challenge you because you said, the first attempt at this was not that successful. So maybe that doesn't speak well of this one. Well, Dungeons and Dragons already proved that wrong this year.
True enough.
And I think that might not matter so much.
Yeah.
But
anything's possible in summer.
That's true.
Season.
That's true. And we haven't really got into. We're kind of at a disadvantage because I've seen one trailer for this, but Disney really hasn't gotten into the big Disney marketing push for this one yet, right? So we're probably about a month away before it does that. And people see the trailers on this if they're going to see Little Mermaid. Sure, there's going to be some attraction there, I think.
If they do it, unless they've written it off already.
Yeah.
Too.
Write this off. Not this one. You don't pay Rosario Dawson, Academy Award winner Jamie Lee Curtis, Winona Ryder, and Owen Wilson for something you're going to write off.
And I feel like this was a missed opportunity to release around Halloween because I feel like if it came in October, I would be a lot more excited and eager to go see about it just because, it's a fun seasonal thing. Maybe this reminds me kind of more of Hocus Pocus or some of those fun Disney family films. So I think that this could be another example of one that's not hitting at the best time. I'm curious why they wanted to release it at the end of July versus waiting for this is the Halloween family movie of the year. Everyone go see it.
Mm-hmm. Matt, how do you feel about it, Haunted Mansion?
This is another one that I saw the preview of that I'd not really learned much about. So I'm sort of fresh on what I think. The vibe is a little interesting because we know it's not going to be R-rated horror. We know that, but it does feel like in the trailer they're going for a little scarier tone than you might expect from a Disney movie. It's got Lakeith Stanfield. Uh, it does feel like they may be playing up a little bit, like maybe even going for a feel of a Jordan Peele movie, at least a PG-13 version of a Jordan Peele movie. That would be interesting. Not interesting enough to probably draw me to the theater, but I will check it out streaming certainly.
Okay, Mike, how do you feel about Haunted Mansion?
It's interesting. I feel with it that has a lot of potential, and I hated the last one with Eddie Murphy, so anything has to be better than that. But I agree with Ashley too. They already do have a perfect Haunted Mansion film with the Muppets, and it was done so very well. And that one just had me smiling ear to ear. I don't even know if I'll watch this when it first comes to Disney Plus. I'll probably wait. Maybe I'll wait till Halloween or something like that just to watch it. But I won't do it at the theater.
So I guess we're not reviewing this one this year. I get it. Okay.
We can, but I'll do it kicking and screaming.
Wow. I'm curious about it. I love the Haunted Mansion. It's one of my favorite rides. I want this to be good. I don't want a movie based on one of my favorite rides to suck. So I hope this is good. And I haven't seen enough of it to know one way or the other. The cast looks impressive. That's all I can say right now. And it's one of those things where I think though, if Disney puts together a really good trailer and they have it in front of Little Mermaid, that'll give it a bump. Will it be enough of a bump? Maybe, but that'll give it a huge bump. Hey, you like Little Mermaid? Go see this Haunted Mansion movie, and people be like, okay, there's another Disney movie coming out. Let's go. And so I think it could help a lot as a lead-in. By that way, Ashley, I also thought of not to put the spotlight back on you, but I also thought of another movie that came out this year that was kind of a remake of a movie earlier version that didn't do well, and that's Super Mario Brothers.
You know what? If you can do it really, really well, or you can get people's attention, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a curse.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I will also point to you that those are probably the exceptions, not the norm. Okay, now we go to August 4th. August 4th, we have a sequel to The Meg, starring Jason Statham with one of the biggest sharks you'll ever find, as well as another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. This one's called Mutant Mayhem. The trailer was just released for this one a little while, like just a week or so ago. What do you think about this, Matt? What do you think about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Another toy line, another cartoon, another movie. It seems like they're reinventing the Mutant Ninja Turtles like every other year now.
True, but this feels more like one that may hit than any of the more recent ones. They are going for a stylistic animation style. I think they're hoping to build on the success of Spider-Verse in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think they actually hired teenagers to play them. I think that's a smart move. I'm watching this. I have a lot of interest in the franchise, even though I don't know that since the first two live action ones back in the 90s that I've ever been all that happy with them. I am cautiously optimistic about this one.
Okay. Ashley?
Yeah, I am not super familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, but seeing the trailer, I was intrigued by the animation style. And like you said, Matt, how Into the Spider-Verse kind of inspired, like, let's try out different ways to make animated movies. So that might be the reason I go to see it, is not necessarily even for the franchise, but just because I'm excited by different types of animation and seeing them play around with that.
Mm-hmm. Mike, how do you feel about this one?
I am looking forward to this one. I really am. I love the art styles that they've come up with for this. And like Matt says, they're going for trying to get the same audience that have been curious about the animated Spider-Man films. And when I saw the trailer for this a couple weeks back, I was like, oh, another Turtles movie, just like you were, Mike. But then I saw the styles of the art and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. And everything.
First I thought it was like claymation.
Yeah. So did I. They had a lot of fun with this one. And you know what? It was neat to see. And I wish, in all truth, I wish we could have, gotten some of the original voices in it, but I can understand they wanted to go a different direction, getting younger for it, because they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not 65-year-old Rob Paulson and so that but I am looking forward to that one. So yeah, I probably will watch that one. I might not go the first week it's open, but I will try to catch the film on the big screen, just for the animation style mostly.
Yeah, it does look like it's going to be an interesting spectacle. So yeah, I'm curious about it too. I like the idea of I'm not a huge like Turtles aficionado. I haven't seen all the Turtle stuff. I'm familiar with the comic and some of the animated series that have come and gone, but yeah, I'm always interested. They have the potential to be big. And I don't know if this is it, but this is certainly, it looks like a step in the right direction for them. So next up we have August 11th, and we've got two movies that I think are interesting. One is Gran Turismo, and is that based on a game?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, that's another video game movie.
And Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is a Dracula movie. And a certain passage in Dracula it adapts, which I'm very fascinated by. There's also a Zendaya movie called Challengers coming out, so there's that as well. Any of these three movies strike you as interesting at all, Mike?
No. Not one of them, truthfully. They haven't even put out a trailer yet for Gran Turismo. It has an interesting cast, but I think they're just trying to incorporate like a Fast and Furious type, crowd, and then getting, oh, it's a video game. Gran Turismo was a video game back, in the 80s and on the old Nintendos and such. And so it doesn't have any interest in me. And I agree about The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and because that was a great part of the Dracula book and everything like that. But, overall, none of those three do anything for me.
Matt?
Well, I did see, it wasn't a trailer per se, but it was sort of like a behind the scenes sneak peek on Gran Turismo. It almost feels like it's not really a movie as much as a tech demo. It's like, go to a theater that has the rumble seats and I don't know that that's really what I want to be doing in the theater. I have video games for that. So it's like any hint of story is going to be kind of blown by as kind of just fluff. I think I am intrigued by the Dracula film, Demeter. Elaine, when we watched the previews, that caught her eye. She really wants to see it, but even wanting to see it for her usually means at home. So no, that's probably a week that I'll catch something that I may have missed a previous week or something, or see something a second time that I really liked.
Gotcha. Ashley?
Yeah, of those, the Last Voyage one probably seems the most interesting to me, but it kind of feels more like a fall movie to me. I don't know necessarily, like in the middle of August, if I would be in the mood to watch that one. So that might be one I wait more towards streaming.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely there for Last Voyage as a Dracula fan, and this one looks very atmospheric. I'm curious to see that. Not at all like the version of Renfield we got last month. This one looks like it takes itself maybe too seriously, but we'll see. But none of these I don't think are going to make it an impact on the top 10. In fact, I'm not sure if anything else in August is going to make much of an impact. The only other one that we have of interest, I think, this month, August 18th, is Blue Beetle, which will be our second DC movie of the year of the summer. Ashley, what do you think about Blue Beetle?
Yeah, so I always root for superhero movies to do well. I want them to be successful. I want it to be an interesting story. Its release date concerns me a little bit. I fear not like mid to late August has the perception of being the time of the year when movies are tossed out by studios who don't have a lot of confidence in them and they're kind of just put there to die. So I hope that this movie turns out to be good. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about it yet, but again, we've got like Guardians of the Galaxy, Flash. This could be an instance where like the rising tide lifts all boats. Like if all the superhero movies really land this summer, people could be like, yeah, I'm really in the mood to go see more of it. But I think if there's any sign of people feeling fatigued or they have so-so performances, I don't think this one's going to stand out too much. So fair or not, I think a lot is riding on how the movies before it do.
Mike,
And
what do you feel about what do you feel about Blue Beetle?
I'm curious because I love the characters, and Blue Beetle is a legacy character in DC, and I love, what they've done with Jaime, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see them how they're going to incorporate Ted Cord and some of the other DC legacy characters into this. And there's tons of rumors going around. Is this like going to be part of James Gunn's future DCU? And it just all depends on how the film does. And I'm hoping it's going to do great because it looks beautiful. It looks a lot of fun. And I like how it's a non-white superhero that we're getting. And it's going to be, I'm very much looking forward to this one. And until I saw the trailer, I had forgotten this one was coming out and that it was even in production. So good, bravo on them for surprising me on it. And so kudos.
The other thing about this one is that it's got pretty much the month to itself. I mean, it's only got like 2, maybe 3 weeks to make an impact as far as the summer box office goes. But as far as, the weekend and the month or whatever, it's pretty much good. It's not challenged by much. I mean, there's a few other movies coming out, but nothing of in that sort of summer movie box office style of movie that we see. Matt, what do you feel about Blue Beetle?
There's zero pressure on this one, I think. I don't think it has to do exceptionally well. I think an opportunity to have a good kind of niche superhero film is there. I think if it does very well, I think it doesn't interfere with anything James Gunn is planning. He'd be like, yeah, we'll bring it on board. And the trailer, like Mike was saying, Mike Faber, it looks very fun. And I get very similar vibes as the first 2 Ant-Man films, which I think weren't necessarily the most successful MCU movies, but I think they had their own place in the MCU. So I think on the high end, I think if Blue Beetle can kind of carve a niche like that, I think it would have been very successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I like Blue Beetle as a character, even the Reyes version, right? Is that
Jaime
Reyes?
Jaime Reyes, yeah.
Yeah. And it will be interesting to see if they do incorporate some legacy into it. Although, last time I appreciated a film more for the legacy than I did the main character was Black Adam, and that was not a good experience. So I'm hoping that this one is much better than that. Looks like it has a tone of maybe a Shazam movie, which is good, family oriented. I think that will work in its favor as well. Well, you're right. They don't have anything to really lose by releasing this one because there's nothing else competing against it. So if it does pretty well, they can pat themselves on the back. And if it does like super well, they can go, okay, we'll incorporate this into our new vision of DC. Or if it doesn't do well, they can just, put it on Max streaming and then just forget about it. So it can be one of those things that people like just say like, oh, remember that? And that's it for what I see for movies that really could make an impact on the summer. There's a couple other interesting ones that are coming out, but nothing that I think really like will make an impact as far as I can tell. Is there anything else that's coming out in August that anybody wanted to mention?
For me, I'm actually looking forward to, at the end of August, there's a movie called Golda. It's starring Helen Mirren as Golda Meir. And I've seen the trailer for that one. And I'm actually surprised it's not being released later in the year, because this one has Oscar possibilities with it. And I've heard nothing but greatness about this one already, and it's getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah, it's a limited release in the end of August. So I think the plan will be probably to see it go wide in September. It's kind of funny though, because it's also being released at the same time as Whitebird, which is another Helen Mirren movie. So Helen Mirren's going to be battling herself at the box office.
Exactly.
But she's awesome. Helen Mirren is an amazing actress. And I mean, she was one of the things I really liked about Shazam! Fury of the Gods, right?
Yep.
So I mean, what a big year she's having. She already got paid, so this is the movies that she was doing because she wanted to. So anything else from the end of August? All right. Well, I think we've had enough that we can still talk about, and it still makes our picks and our selections for the certain categories challenging. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and do our predictions.
It's going to be very interesting, YouTube folks. You know, there's a lot on the line here, because this is now the part where we get egg on our face. And this is where we have to make our decisions out of all the films we talked about. And so I will say this, though. Last year, it was easier there was more, I felt like there were a lot more non-blockbustery films I was looking forward to with last year, because we had stuff like Elvis, and we had, you know, a few other films that Bullet Train, exactly, that, you know, had on the list. And you also had your cousin's film about Jazz Fest and everything. So, you know, there was just, I felt like last year there was a lot more smaller films in the running that were decent. This year it didn't seem like it was mostly only the blockbusters.
Yeah, well, I think because, you know, now that we're past COVID really and the lockdown and all that, the studios are just cranking them out now, and so there's not a lot of room for original movies anymore. Like there was spaces available for that last year because there wasn't a huge release every other week, but now there is. And so the original ones are going either straight to streaming or they're going to be waiting, you know, they'll wait till the fall or early spring to release those, I think.
So yeah, it's gonna be real interesting what's going to be coming in the fall. So we can actually say this here, because, you know, your YouTube listeners and watchers, we can actually tell you this, that the fine folks at home who listen to us on the internet as a podcast will not know for quite some time, is we're going to be doing a fall movie preview and winter movie preview this year. For the first time. So, you know, we're going to be talking more about that. So, surprise! Ha ha ha! Isn't it great to be watching us on YouTube, you know, and everything? I think it's going to be a blast coming up and everything to talk all about that, because, you know, good movies don't stop at the end of August. Well, a lot of people say no good movies come out in August, but that's a whole different story. So it's going to be interesting to see, and probably have this crew here to talk to you about it. And it will be the four of us, you know, seeing how we have egg on our face when we do our summer movie review. We'll also then go right into the fall movie review, and it'll be very interesting. And we'll go all the way through the end of the year with the Christmas movies and everything. So it should be a ton of fun to do. And I'm hoping that the writer's strike doesn't have anything to do with, because we're recording this on May 1st, and there's a chance that there's going to be a writer's strike, but I think it's mostly for TV. And interesting.
Well, the movies that we're talking about are already pretty much done.
Oh,
so,
yeah, exactly. Anything movie wise, if it's going to get infected, won't be till next year's movies or even further out, because even next year's movies are already filmed, a lot of them. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. I know, I was talking to a friend of mine, Keith Johnson from Earth Station Trek, earlier today, and him and I were talking about it, and he was like saying, it's gonna, what Star Trek projects is it gonna affect, and other things that he's looking forward to. And it's the same thing, stuff that's going to be coming out all the way probably through, at least through mid-fall, if not later, is already filmed for TV and such. So, and it's going to be also interesting. I'm going to throw another wrench at this one with you guys. We're talking about, big movie releases. We're not talking at all about anything that's coming out that's straight to streaming at all. And everything. We're not talking, we just watched, Judy and I just watched this movie called Ghosted on Apple Plus, and was awesome. It that could have easily been a great summer movie. It's an action romance movie, and and it's non-superhero-y, and it's, I enjoyed it a ton and everything, and I would have loved to see categories like that, if we should start maybe thinking about adding stuff like that to it, but that gets a little more complicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember how big Prey hit? Was it last year or the year before?
It was last summer.
That was a big streaming, direct to streaming movie, and it was very, very as big and as important and as good as any of the blockbusters I think that came out that year.
In some ways,
I wish that was a
better
theater release.
Yeah,
I would love to see that in the theater.
Yeah,
I'm sure it would have been amazing on the big screen too. And I go see foreign films. I don't mind seeing subtitles on stuff. So it'd be pretty cool to see. All right, we've been going for quite some time, so let's Mike, let's go to our picks.
All right. And we're back, and we're ready to give you our predictions for this summer. We'll see how well we do. We'll see how hip we are to the state of the box office these days. Ashley, I'm going to start with you. What is your pick for the biggest box office movie of the summer?
You know what? I'm going to say The Little Mermaid. I think that if it's good, it's just going to really resonate with families, and it will have long legs throughout the summer. I feel like that's something too about the live action movies, that they tend to kind of hang around with families. So I think that one could very well emerge as the top moneymaker of the summer.
Wow. Okay. Do you think it's going to beat Super Mario?
It could, but I'm not confident enough to go that far. So, but it could.
Okay. Matt, what about you? What is your throwing down now? What is the big movie of the summer for you?
Well, you might as well swing for the fences, I feel. First of all, I don't think any of the summer movies beat Super Mario Brothers. There's just too many. There's a lot of potential for what used to be considered big hits, but by Super Mario Brothers levels, no, I don't see a Top Gun out of this group.
James Cameron's going, damn it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take a little risk here. I think the highest grossing movie of this summer group is going to be Barbie.
Wow. Damn. That is, you are.
Wow.
Yeah. Why? I'm not saying you're crazy, but you're crazy. Why? What makes you confident that this will be bigger than anything else?
Because I think it has the potential to draw in more audiences than most of the other films. I think I said myself, it's not the kind of movie I would normally be interested, but I'm intrigued. A lot of people are intrigued, and I think the ones that did well, like Top Gun, were those that were able to draw in the masses. They were able to draw in people from different demographics. And I think to be the big hit, it's the one that I think that has that potential.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. He's going to sell a lot of toys too, a lot of dolls.
Well, there's a lot of women 30 and up who grew up on Barbie, probably more so than kids nowadays do. And I think they're gonna want to see this movie. They've never had they never had a movie for them for that interest, and they're gonna want to see it.
Yeah, I think the only other Barbie movie that maybe was in the theater was like an animated one, like decades ago or something. I don't really remember, but wow, that is I appreciate your confidence and going out on that limb, man.
Now I got that damn Barbie song going through my head.
that is going to be really interesting to see. Mike, where do you land as far as the biggest movie of the summer of 2023?
Super Mario Brothers. No.
Too late.
I know. I'm going to go out and say, I'm going to say Indiana Jones. I think people are going to go for nostalgia. I think they're going to let Harrison Ford go out with a bang. And I think if it's half as good as the trailer is, I think it's going to do blockbusters. I really, really do.
That is, man, I am shocked. I am shocked that nobody has picked Guardians. Guardians is the safe bet, right? Guardians is the safe bet. Are we thinking that superhero fatigue is a real thing and it's going to really affect this movie? Is that the big reason that you guys have not chosen it, or what, or just everything else like has the potential to be bigger?
I think, it's going to start big with the summer. It's next week, and the only thing it has going up against it is Super Mario Brothers, literally. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to Guardians, and like we said earlier, but I think there's too many other things coming out that'll split it and take the money from it. And I think it'll have a very good audience score. I think it's going to have hopefully good reviews, but I'm not sure about the superhero fatigue. I really am not. It has me worried.
You guys feel that way too?
Yeah, I think that it will do well, but I do think that there's opportunities for other movies to take it on. Just kind of, again, like what you were saying, Matt, about the wide appeal, like what is going to resonate most with mass audiences. And I don't know if the mass audience is as caught up on the MCU as they used to be with the TV shows and all the movies, which is a shame because I really loved all the Disney Plus content, in some ways even better than some of the movies. So like if you're not watching it, it's well worth your time to catch up on it. But I know just anecdotally some like friends and family members who aren't as caught up on the MCU as they used to be just because there's so much content. So yeah, I feel like it will do well and people will probably really enjoy it, but some other films could knock it off that top spot.
Wow.
I agree.
Well, yeah, I'm not opting for the safe bet either. And as much as I hate to agree with my co-host, I have it written down here. So I'm not going to change it because I already wrote it down. But I'm now I will admit I'm voting not with my head but with my heart. And I want Indiana Jones to be the biggest movie of the summer.
Yeah.
I want it to be. It means that franchise, that first movie means so much to me. And I do think, though, even setting all that aside, I do think that it does have the potential it has that same ingredients that maybe Maverick did, where you've got a franchise that, it's been a long time since there was a movie like with that character. And it's an older character, but it's one that the actor loves them. Harrison Ford has gotten a bump lately because he's been in a couple of TV or streaming things, and that has gone really well. So it's not like people haven't seen him in a decade or anything like that. And so as long as, James Mangold can deliver an action movie that you don't need like a bunch of like to watch like 24 superhero movies in order to understand, I think that, this has a pretty good chance of taking over. Now, I kind of thought that way in the same way I thought that way about Jurassic World last year. Although I didn't really like the property as much as I certainly I didn't like it as much as I like Indiana Jones. So my heart wasn't in it, but my head said that you don't go against dinosaurs on the big screen. I don't know. It remains to be seen whether or not. Yeah, it remains to be seen. There's so many. This was difficult. This was not an easy one to predict and really have confidence with, because every one of us, well, Mike and I were the same, but I mean, we didn't go for the safe pick, and we didn't, and everybody picked something a little different and different reasons why. So I do find that really interesting. There's no slam dunks this year, so it's going to make it really interesting. All right, so that out of the way, what is the biggest flop? Mike, what do you think is going to just fall on its face this summer?
I think people are finally going to give up on Transformers. I really, really do. And I've given up on it years ago, and I'm just not excited by it. I really am not. And I'm hoping maybe they need to give this one a break a bit and maybe give it like 5 years and then come back to it with a fresh look.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, yeah, it's, I don't know what to think of that one because I haven't been following the franchise. I mean, is it going to be one that the base is tired of, and maybe Paramount is forced to like redo the whole thing, come back in like 5-10 years or whatever, and restart everything? Or, what does this matter? What does this mean for them? Matt, what do you feel is the biggest flop of the season?
I tend to agree with Faber. I think, but it's almost too easy of a pick. I would be shocked if this one made over, let's say, 125 million. So I guess from the dollar sense, I think it's an easy pick, but I was looking at it almost more critically and almost more one that has more pressure on it and perhaps more anticipation. I actually wrote down The Flash as my biggest flop.
Wow. Interesting.
But I think it does. I think it makes more money than Transformers, but I don't think it makes as much money as it needs to be a success.
Gotcha. That would be interesting. The Michael Keaton factor is so interesting for that movie. Like, I mean, if it was a Michael Keaton Batman movie, not a Flash movie, but it was a Michael Keaton Batman movie, I think we'd all pick it as number one, right? I mean, certainly we have reason to, but it's not, and it really depends on how much he's in it and how good the story is otherwise, I think. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Ashley, what's your vote for biggest flop?
Yeah, so I don't think that this is going to be the lowest box office of the summer, but I picked it more based on what people expect it to do versus what it actually does, and I think it's going to be Fast 10. Like I said, I don't think that it's going to make like 10 million and go away. Like it will make a okay amount of money, but I don't think it's going to be the draw that the studio thinks it is, especially with this going to be the big finale. I don't think it's going to see a big uptick for the franchise.
That's interesting. And it's kind of like, I mean, I kind of feel like that with the Transformers. Like I don't know. I think maybe the air is already out of those tires,
Yeah.
But they still need to make some money in order to continue. And I think with at least with the Fast movies, they want to do at least one more. I don't know if they've already filmed it or how the status is on that, but I think they want to do one more to end it. And, whether or not it makes sense to after the results of this one.
Yeah, and
they're kind of
especially
stuck.
if Fast 11 is supposed to, this is the finale, people might be saving their money and excitement for that one. Like, well, this is kind of just a prequel to the big finale, so we're going to wait till the one that's actually the last one. I could see that maybe happening a little too.
So, look, I don't want any of the movies, especially any of the movies that I'm planning on seeing this year. I do not want them to fail. I do not want them to suck. I do not want them, so and the way I looked at this is that this might not be a flop in terms of it's not going to make the top 10, but as far as not do what they hope it will or what they estimate it will, I'm going to swing hard and go for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Wow.
I think the expectations on that are huge because of Maverick. I think they're insane because of Maverick, and I don't think it's going to even come close to Maverick numbers. Like I said, the Mission Impossible movies have done about 200, 250 mil each time they've come out. None have cracked 300. I don't think this one cracks 300 either. I just think there's too much other competition, and I don't think Mission Impossible is the same thing as Top Gun was. That whole like base that like wanted to see Top Gun, I don't think is going to be there. I mean, Top Gun is one of the things. Top Gun Maverick is one of those movies that they say brought everybody back to the theater after lockdown. Everybody was climbing to see that one, right? Well, that's over. Like, we're already at the theater now. So the fact that it's a part 1, I think, is going to make a lot of people go, I don't know if I really need to see that, or I'm not sure. I don't want to commit. A lot of people, remember, after Dune ended with, to be continued, people were like, what? Like, at least this tells you right in the beginning, like, hey, I don't think it's going to flop. I think it's going to be in the top 10. So it's not going to be a complete flop, but I think it's going to make its money, but I don't think it's going to do like as big as Tom Cruise and did last year. So, all right. So now our category is biggest surprise hit. So a surprise hit that is going to do better than people expect. Ashley, we'll start with you. What movie do you think is going to do better than people think it's going to do?
You know what? I think that if it's good, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie could be a fun little summer boost, especially like riding off the hopeful success of Across the Spider-Verse. Here's another nostalgic property with a really unique animation style. So I think this has the potential to be a breakout hit after people have seen it. Could be something a little bit fresh and different after the other stuff we've seen this summer.
Matt, what do you think is a big surprise hit?
Well, judging by the reactions to everyone else here, I guess by default it's Barbie, but but that's not the one I wrote down because I actually kind of expected to be a hit. I think I'm with Ashley. Mutant Mayhem was the one I wrote down as my surprise hit. I think the audience is there and it's not been well served for a long enough period to where if they do something unique, and it seems like they may be doing that, I think there's an opportunity to make it a huge hit.
Mike, what about you? Surprise hit?
I was going to say Barbie, but like everyone's saying, it's expected to be a hit, and I think it's going to be huge. Mine is actually Blue Beetle. It's hoping that it's because it's going to be a breath of fresh air. It's going to be, people might not be going to see The Flash. People might be going, what is this Blue Beetle? It's August, I need something to go get out of the heat. I need something to do. And I think this is a perfect escape movie. And if it's done as well as the trailers look, I think we're going to get a really excellent film and leading into James Gunn's universe.
Well, originally I was going to say Barbie as well, but I think Barbie's going to, I think Barbie has the potential. I'm not willing to swing as big as you, man. I'm not willing to swing as big as this one on this one. I think it has the potential to make the top 5. like
Oh,
the
yeah.
like the very end, like maybe number 5. I think it might like throw a Disney one off or something. Because like I said, there's always a comedy one that seems to do well. And you put a comedy with a franchise like Barbie, a known brand like that, and it's and kind of a bonkers trailer where people are like, kind of has that same vibe of, I don't know if you remember this, but I guess it was, man, how old am I now? Like 15, 20 years ago when they came out with the Very Brady movie. I have that same tone where it doesn't really take itself too seriously, but everybody has to go see it because it's a fun time at the movies. And Barbie looks like exactly that, a fun time at the movies. So, but that's not my pick.
Oh,
My pick is going to be Haunted Mansion. You want to talk about a surprise? I don't know if anybody's talking about this movie. Nobody expects it to do anything. It comes out at the end of July, and for me, that's like anything that comes out after August 1st. I'm like, yeah, you got your work cut out for you. But if you're a hit at the end of July, you have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity to make it in the top 10. And I hope that Haunted Mansion is a good enough movie that, I don't want it to suck. And I think it's got some pretty good cast around it. And it's a Disney movie, so they're going to push it. Like I said, I think if they just put a trailer before Little Mermaid, that gives it a bump in and of itself that could land it in the top 10. So I'm going to select that one as my surprise hit because I don't think anybody sees that one in the top 10 at all.
do you think it'll have the same kind of magic that like the original Pirates of the Caribbean did?
Not that big. I mean, we could only hope, right? I mean, if we're talking the original Pirates, that's huge. I don't know if it's got that kind of, but I mean, I'd have to look. And granted, again, COVID messed up everything, but I'm kind of curious. The Jungle Cruise did pretty good, if I remember correctly. And that's the last movie that's come out based on a ride. So, and it's Disney. For some people, I mean, people go to see Disney movies, even though most of them have Disney Plus, but you still go to see Disney movies, even, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad or whatever. They're like, hey, it's a Disney movie. I'm going to take the kids, So as long as this one is PG and not a hard PG-13 or whatever, I think this one has the potential of like bring the kids in one last movie of the end of the summer. All right, now we're going to go to our picks. I think we have 3 of these. Yeah, we have 3, right?
Great.
Three
You got
movies. 3 movies that you're most looking forward to, and they could be, box office hits. They could be whatever. These are the 3 movies that you are wanting to see most out of the summer 2023. Ashley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, Across the Spider-Verse is my number 1 summer movie. I just love the animation style. Really excited to see this story continue. Hopefully it's going to be good. Also going to have to pick Guardians of the Galaxy. Really hope that it's going to be a satisfying ending for these characters, and then one that we can look back over this mini trilogy within the MCU, and hopefully it'll stand out as one of the best arcs that the MCU is told. And then finally, Indiana Jones. Just great to see this classic character return to the screen, and great that Harrison Ford is back, and I hope that it's a worthy send-off for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Matt, what about you? What are your 3 picks for ones that you're going to see at the movie theater like first day?
Mostly the hits. And probably a little less controversial than some of my other picks. Number 1, Spider-Verse. I was just blown away by that one, and I can't wait to see what else they do with that. Number 2 is Indiana Jones: Dial of Destiny. It is one of my top 2 or 3 favorite franchises in the history of movies, and as long as it's good or even decent.
So far, there has not been a sign of a refrigerator. That's all I've
right, right. No Shia LaBeouf anywhere to be seen. So we're good. And number 3, Asteroid City. The look of that movie, the sort of Roswell 50s, 60s vibe, has really got me intrigued. And as soon as I saw the trailer, I didn't know it was a Wes Anderson movie, but when I saw the trailer, I said, that's Wes Anderson. No doubt about it. And the cast is incredible. And that one I'm really looking forward to. And I can't believe I'm not including Guardians of the Galaxy in there, which, I mean, we are literally going to see it in 3 days. But I'm almost afraid. I mean, it's like it's I have a strange fear with it, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm coming out of there and said I should never have doubted James Gunn. I should have never doubted the MCU. But I have this weird fear about it, and it's such a high standard with the first two for me. So that's why I do.
A lot of pressure.
I would imagine by the first week too, and definitely by the second week, we'll all be going, I like how do our picks look now?
yeah, one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Mike, what about you? What are your 3 picks for the ones that you are most looking forward to this year?
Very similar to everybody else's, except for one. Across the Spider-Verse is, of course, looking forward to that and geeking out animation-wise and story-wise and character-wise. Indiana Jones. I want to tip my hat for a fond farewell to Dr. Jones. And then I'm going to do Mission Impossible as my third. I've loved the last 4. And after the first 2, and that I was like, oh my God, what am I watching? And the third one was like, okay. And then from there, they had me hooked.
Yeah.
And so I am looking forward to it. And, I'm just looking forward to seeing every single, stunt that Tom Cruise does and says, is this the one that kills him? Is this the one that kills him? So I want to definitely see what we come up with, and looking forward to that. And honorable mention, of course, is Asteroid City. It looks beautiful.
My number one is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I've mentioned a bit, while we've been talking about this, reasons why I am addicted to Indiana Jones, as well as, sometimes it's been an abusive relationship. I love the first one so much. I hated the second one after I saw it. I came out of there and I can't tell you how disappointed I was. Maybe for the first time ever, I was hugely disappointed in a sequel, prequel, whatever you want to call it. Loved the third one, hated the fourth one. So, hey, guess what? The pendulum is swinging in the other direction. This is an even number
Get ready, kids.
This is an even number movie. So I'm hoping for the best. I really am. I'm really, as much as I'd be like, oh, the trailer doesn't do anything for me, it's still going to pull me. I cannot not see it. It's the opening weekend. Guardians is my second pick. Guardians of the Galaxy. I love these characters. I love James Gunn as a director. I have every confidence in the world this is going to be a fun, interesting story. There may be some sadness to it, but James Gunn is able to always even in the second one, there was some sad moments, but there was also you came out of the theater feeling good. And the MCU might be up in some sort of confusion now and all this kind of stuff going on with it. But I think Guardians and James Gunn, I trust them. So I'm looking forward to that this weekend. And my third choice will be Elemental. I want Pixar to be back on top of doing what they do best. Elemental looks like it's in the right direction. Can they stick the landing? It looks good. It's original. Can they wow me when I see it? And I hope for the best. So I'm really looking forward to. I'm doing a complete rewatch of all the Pixar movies this year. So, cool. So I've been on that. I'm about halfway through, and I really love this company and what they do, and I want to see them succeed once again. So Elemental is the one for me. So, that's interesting. We all had some different picks, especially our third choices. So, that is it. As far as all our predictions, I think we've put ourselves on enough limbs that if we go out there anymore, we will surely fall on our faces. And as Mike so eloquently puts,
as we have in the past,
as Mike so eloquently puts, like we will have egg on them as well. So, so yeah, it remains to be seen. So check us out in September when we review all of our picks and the summer movie season as a whole, and talk about what worked and what didn't work. As Mike said, we want to hear from you. What did we pick, or what are we not seeing that you guys think is going to be the number one hit or flop?
Did we miss something? Did we miss something?
Absolutely. We want to hear from you guys. Whether you think that this is a good summer movie season or not. So
feedback at ourstation1.com.
Absolutely. That said, we are going to be closing out the show.
Okay, YouTube listeners, I'm sure you guys are going, oh my God, we're still watching this thing. We've gone almost over 2 hours already. So this will be interesting to see. Those are our picks. I think we've done very well. And I'm glad we all didn't agree on the same thing, which is really awesome for us, because sometimes we get, into a rhythm where we're all on the same page and everything. But, I think last year we were kind of diverse with our picks. And I think this year, we're across the board on some of the stuff. Some of the stuff we're all on the same page. And, I'm going to be very curious on some of these picks on how they did and what's going to be good and what's not going to be good. So,
I know we talked about overall, like what our feelings were about this summer and how it looked. But now that we've talked about all the releases and everything, do you guys feel like this is going to be a great summer? Do you think it's going to be a good summer? Do you think it's going to be okay? Is it missing something?
I think it's going to be a good summer. I'm missing a lot of the independent films or the, independent films that I got excited about. And, like the Lionsgate and the A24 and stuff like that. I was looking at the list, and even those studios didn't really have much that I was looking forward to. And I'm kind of surprised, because a lot of those times, there's something out there. I know, I think one year, we had Jay and Silent Bob reboot, or we had, stuff like that. We had different, Kevin Smith stuff, or we've had, stuff by, directors that we knew and were excited by. But this year, I think Asteroid City is the closest thing to it that, other than the big blockbusters that I'm really excited about. So I'm just fine.
Yeah, definitely don't want to skip over summer, but I know there's a lot later in the year I'm looking forward to like Dune Part 2 is my most anticipated movie of the year. I am so hyped for that. And a lot on streaming as well, like Strange New Worlds, the second season, Star Wars Ahsoka. So yeah, I feel like it will be a good summer, but my attention is maybe a little less honed in on summer movie season than I used to be in past years, just because there are other things out there too that I'm excited for, which I think, as we've mentioned before, is our post-COVID reality.
Definitely.
Well, very much so. Very, very much so. I think it's going to be a real interesting thing. So I think we got a lot to look forward to. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think this is the biggest summer movie season we've had since lockdown, since the pandemic, and it only gets bigger from here. I'm surprised at how big DC is playing a part this year with 2 movies. We've already seen one this spring, and we've got 2 more movies coming out this summer. That's amazing to me, whereas Marvel seems to be a bit more spread out. We had one in the spring. We got one at the beginning of the summer. We don't have one. Marvel's doesn't come out until what, at the end, in the fall?
November.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's Spider-Man is kind of there, but it's not really an MCU movie. So, the MCU seems to be taking a bit of a back seat, a little bit, and letting DC, even though these movies aren't really relevant to what they're going to be doing in the next couple of years for DC. So I do find that interesting. But I would like to see, you know, franchises only really start when box office or in studios take a chance at doing something new.
Yeah.
And we don't see any of that this year. So everything is a franchise that's 30, 40, 50 years old. I mean, Barbie's like what, 60, 70 years old as a franchise, as a brand.
As a brand, but I think they're taking a big step to push a movie like this, and especially with the director who did Lady Bird. I think it's pretty amazing that you're going for this. When they had that first trailer and they did the parody of 2001, I was laughing my gut off. It was just beautiful and everything. And you got a lot of complaints because the little girls were smashing their dollies and everything to get the Barbies and everything. And I thought it was genius. And I said, if this movie is going to be anything like this, I think we're in for a ton of fun, and I think we're all going to be surprised by it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're all expecting it to do well, it's not going to be much of a surprise. But I do feel like
there's a difference between doing well and me sitting there and enjoying it. And I think I'm going to,
That's true. It's going to be really interesting. And yeah, I think I would like to see more. I think other than Christopher Nolan, most of the other movies are based on franchises rather than people. People aren't going for certain actors. They're not going for directors. They're not going for writers. They're going because it's a franchise. And I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see, Tom Cruise, it's arguable that people are going for Tom Cruise. We'll find out if Tom Cruise is enough to do the box office that he did last year. If people are going to see Tom Cruise, or they're going to see it because it's a good movie with Tom Cruise, and that's different. It's a Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise rather than it's a Tom Cruise movie. So I think that and that's the state of things. I mean, I'm not surprised by it, but I do wish that we were in a different environment where studios were taking a little bit more risks.
I agree with that. I can't disagree with that at all. All right, YouTube folks. What do you guys think? Feedback at ourstation1.com, or leave comments underneath, since this is YouTube. Or as we always like to say, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. We would appreciate it. All right. I think this is going to wrap up our show for tonight. I think we've been talking to you way too long.
Yeah, so, are starting to go.
Exactly. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. Want to thank our guests for slugging along and taking the chance with the egg on your face for tonight. All right, Ashley, thank you as always. This is a tradition with us, and I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. I always really enjoy it, and good discussion. I love hearing the different perspectives and speculating what may or may not happen with these movies, and then looking forward to talking about them more as they come out. So thank you again for letting me be a part of this one. It's definitely one of my favorites to record each year.
Oh, most definitely. Anything you want to shout out about?
Well, this is the week of May the 4th, Star Wars Day. So be sure to check out some of your local vendors and favorite shops to see if they have any specials or activities. I've already seen some promotions online. So yeah, just enjoy celebrating Star Wars.
Very much so. And actually, this episode is going to go live on May 4th.
Well, there you go. Perfect. No Star Wars movie, sadly, this summer, but
we get Ahsoka in August.
Yes.
So there you go. So you will enjoy. Yeah. So there you go. And Mr. Matt Sweatman, thank you, sir. Hopefully this could become a new tradition with you.
Oh, I'd love it to be, because I said before, this was always my favorite episode every year as a listener. So to be a part of it's been a thrill. It's been a really, really fun time.
That is awesome. Anything you want to shout out about?
Sure. I always like to promote my wife's podcast on the ESO Network, Monkeeing Around. Anybody who has interest in the band of monkeys, you see my shirt for the YouTubers. Um, I
Just picture, folks. He
Yeah, yeah.
lifted his muscular chest at home.
Oh yeah, no,
I mean, like,
nobody wants to see that. But
okay.
we participate a lot with friends from the podcast, Chuck and Veronica. They also do Earth Station Trek, and I plan on following up a successful countdown of season 1 of the original series, where I sometimes controversially ranked the episodes from the first season, and we're almost finished watching through the second season. So here, within a week or so, I'm going to start a countdown of the second season of Star Trek: The Original Series on the Earth Station Trek Facebook page.
Nice.
So anybody who has interest in following along, we always get a lively discussion amongst some of the panelists and some of the listeners as well. So I encourage people to look at that if they like such a thing and comment.
Most awesome. Most awesome. And Mr. Mike Gordon, we've made it through another one, sir.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
A couple things real quick. Last week, as Ashley pointed out, this week is May the 4th, and it's also the first Saturday in May, which means it's Free Comic Day. As I mentioned last week, if you're hearing this in time to catch me, if you're in Georgia, catch me at Urban Pop Comics, which is a grand opening of a new store in Ackworth, Georgia. I will be there from noon to 2:00, signing and saying howdy to people. So I hope to see you there. And if you want to follow, obviously follow us on YouTube or the podcast on all the platforms. If you want to hear our reviews of movies, the big movies that are coming out this year. But if you want to see my reviews of other movies that I'm watching, because I don't just watch movies that we review on the show, there's an app called Letterboxd. That's Letterboxd with a little D at the end. And it is an app for people who watch movies and review them. And so I am there. My name on there, my username is newlegendmike. So you can follow me there and check out all my reviews. I just watched the 2023 version of the movie Marlowe last weekend and put my thoughts on there about that one, as well as other movies that I'm watching. I hope to see you guys there. It's a really cool app. I like it. It's really good for the film community, I think.
Awesome. We'll definitely have a link to it in our show notes, sir. My shout out real quick goes out to the fine folks who were with me over the weekend at MerlFest up in North Carolina. We were at another music festival. This one is always special to me. It is a great festival that is on a campus of a community college up in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And we had some of the crappiest weather I've ever seen at a music festival. And it was thunderstorms and rain Thursday and most of Friday, and then finally Saturday was gorgeous, and then Sunday it rained again. So, and it was cold, and so it was real interesting. And thank you to the people who volunteer to these events. It's the same thing with Dragon Con and these big cons. It's mostly volunteers who are working there and putting their hard-earned time into it and spending it. And bravo to everybody who volunteers for these kind of events. And that's what my shout out is going to tonight. It's just amazing to see these people who don't lose their cool. They don't get frustrated. Oh, I'm sure they do, but they don't show it to the people there. And it is just awesome to see. And they go through all these different situations, including mud that comes up to your thigh and everything, and people slipping, and, the medical teams that, are there ready to help out and such, and going from extremes of rain and cold to almost 80 degrees in hot sun, and people passing out from dehydration and stuff the next day. So it's interesting. And you get that. And MerlFest is alcohol free. Imagine how it is at someplace like Bonnaroo or Floyd Fest or any of these Coachella and stuff that have alcohol and stuff, how much harder it is and stuff. Or like a Dragon Con. I don't think, there's people there who aren't sober for 5-6 days, so it's pretty amazing that what you go through. And bravo to these folks for being a volunteer, and they have all the respect for me in the world. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for folks who do this. And you know what, it's a cool thing to do and everything. And go see live music. Yeah. Okay. So that is going to wrap up the episode for tonight, folks. It's always great hanging out with you guys. Thank you for listening to us. This is like how we used to do in the old days. This used to be one episode a week beforehand, and we would do 2.5 hours sometimes longer. So, be thankful for what we have with the new format. Sometimes it's pretty cool. And as always, thanks for listening to the Earth Station One podcast. Also, always remember that we couldn't do this without you. And you know what? It's more true nowadays than ever. We could, and you know what? If you want to help support us, please check out our Tee-Public store. Check out our, that's where Matt got his t-shirt that he's wearing and everything. We have really cool stuff, including the new Darren Noel t-shirt that we have, and all of that goes to charity. Also, remember, if you want to listen to our show before the rest of the world, why not join the ESO Network Patreon? For as little as $1 a month, you could help support us here at Earth Station One. Check it out at patreon.com/ESO Network. And there's going to be a new feature coming very, very soon for our patrons. I'm willing to announce it here that we are going to be doing the quarterly chat with our patrons. It's going to be exclusive. It's going to be a live show up on Patreon for our patrons only, and they'll be the only ones who have the link to it. So it's going to be cool. And it's going to be with the ESO board members, and kind of think of it as, your time to talk about ESO and find out what you like, what you don't like. And, just talk about geek stuff. It's going to be a geek hangout. And if it works out quarterly, we're talking about moving it even monthly. So definitely do that. And that's going to be open pretty much to all the levels. So as a member of the Patreon, we just want to do it as a way of saying thank you. So like I said, patreon.com/ESO Network. We want to hear from you. Please, like we said throughout the show, please write us anytime at feedback@earthstation1.com. Remember, you could also find Earth Station One wherever fine podcasts are found, including now up on YouTube. That's right, folks. Like and subscribe, and ring that wonderful bell at the top, because we're coming to you twice a week. Except for this week, we're only doing it once because we're doing a double episode. So, definitely check it out. Though.
But you can listen to us twice.
You can, if you have another 5 hours in your schedule, it'll always be good. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon, Ms. Ashley Pauls, and Mr. Matt Sweatman, thanks again for listening. We will see you here next time on Earth Station One. Stay safe, hug your loved ones, and just go out and have fun. Peace, and we are done. Boom.
And save us the aisle seats.
Exactly. We'll be waiting for you.